What you know about TMU?
You know 1-2 thing.
You know 1-2 thing. Okay.
Welcome back to The U. I'm Savanna Hamilton, and this week things are heating up. And to break it all down, we got Deshaun Stevens from Persevere. That is a Canadian sport media outlet. And later we will be talking to Audrey Roy. She's a midfielder and MVP of Kate Breton's women's soccer program. All that and more. Let's get to some highlights. A major OUA quarterfinals upset went down over the weekend for the Western Mustangs. In the final play of the game, the score was tied at 17-17 when the Guelph Griffins lined up for a 30-yard field goal after catching the ball. Western returner Seth Robertson couldn't get it out of his own end zone, leading to a single-point rouge awarded to Guelph. Oof, what a way to end the season for the Mustangs. We'll be breaking that one down in just a moment with Deshaun Stevens. It was a nail-biter in Canada West semifinals for men's soccer between Mount Royal Cougars and the Victoria Vikes. The Cougars tied the game in the 90th minute and then won an 11-round penalty shootout. Guys, they brought out the goalkeeper, Seyard Strauss, who sent the ball to the right of the net. Bang! The Cougars are headed to the conference finals. Deshaun, welcome to the show. I must say, as the creative director for Persevere, you have a special lens, especially on the collegiate level sports in Canada. Why now? And I say this with so much respect as a former youth sports athlete myself. Why should Canadians care about youth sports and collegiate sports in general now?
Well, first off, Savanna, thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. I always say that the college and university stars of today are the pro stars of tomorrow in Canada. When you look at, the Canadian sports landscape, over the last 5-6 years, you've seen so much domestic sports leagues popping up. I think for a long time, the only domestic pro sports league in Canada was really and truly the CFL. But we've expanded to different sports. So, for example, in basketball, we have the CEBL, we have the NSL, even in hockey, women's hockey, we have the PWHL with teams in Canada, in Ottawa, Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal. And what's happening is you're seeing a lot of university athletes popping up in those leagues, right? Especially for the Canadian-centric leagues. A lot of these leagues are turning to university sports as their professional pipeline. And so a lot of these athletes that you're seeing today that are playing at the schools such as U of T or UVic or TMU, right, are going to be the stars that are dominating in leagues such as the CPL, the CEBL, or maybe one day a professional women's basketball league in Canada. So I think right now is a great time for people to really tune into university sports because the infrastructure in Canada is just growing. It's just expanding. And, there's a lot of leagues today and there's going to be a lot more leagues tomorrow. And that's going to be a lot more jobs for Canadian athletes, university athletes specifically. And so, get used to knowing who your local stars are today because you're going to be cheering for them for a long time.
Well, I remember the U of T hockey player, the goalie, getting the call up to play for the Toronto Maple Leafs when they were down some bodies there.
I remember that. Jet Alexander.
Yeah.
That was good. That's cool. And that's the reality, right? And those are some of the rare occasions, right?
Yeah.
Like, you'll have the goalie get called up from U of T to, be in net for the Leafs. But then sometimes, you'll have players get called up mid-season to play in the CEBL. You'll have players get called up to play in the CFL or get drafted and have long careers there.
Well, let's dive into one of the biggest storylines happening in youth sports right now. Let's talk some football. The Western Mustangs, they were ranked 3rd coming into this. They got upset by the Guelph Griffins, who were ranked 7th. And this is the first time in 10 years that the Stangs will not be in the Yates Cup. How did Guelph take down the Goliath in the Stangs?
Okay. This is a historical loss for many reasons, and one of them you just listed. I'll give you another stat, all right? The last time the Western Mustangs lost in a quarterfinal matchup was 2003.
Wow.
What were you doing in 2003?
I think I was learning some basic grammar. Yeah.
I probably was doing the same. But for context, that's how long it's been since Western's fallen this early in the playoffs. It's a team that's been the consistency of just excellence in the OUA and youth sports for almost 2 decades. But like you said, all good things come to an end, right? They lost in the quarterfinal on Saturday. And really what it came down to, I think, was a great job by the Guelph Griffins defensively. Now, the Western Mustangs, great offense. They actually have the league's leading rushing attack, led by Ethan Dolby, who's the league's leading rusher, who also broke the program record for most rushing yards in a single season. But Western's also ranked 20th when it comes to their passing attack. So in a league of 27 teams, when you're ranked 20th, that's like bottom third, right? Not that good. So the consensus all season has been, if you can stop the run for Western, if you can close those holes and you can complete your tackles and you can stop Ethan Dobie from breaking off big rushes, you will have a chance at beating this team.
Well, this gotta sting for a fifth-year senior, Evan Hillock, for the Stangs as well. How do you feel like he's, feeling, I guess, like right now?
I think the reality is it's the end of an era for Western. A lot of these fifth-year players, including Evan Hillock, Seth Robertson, who was the player that actually gave up the rouge at the end of the game to kind of seal the deal. A lot of these players are in their fifth year and are kind of the remaining players from Western's last Vanier Cup back in 2021. So when it comes to Western football, they often work in 5-year cycles. You have players that come in for 5 years and manage to win Yates Cups and maybe make a Vanier Cup appearance here and there, and you see how that era ends. It either ends in greatness or it kind of ends in heartbreak and bittersweetness. And I think for this era, it ended in heartbreak.
Well, with the Stangs out, you got to know that some of these teams are probably happy about the opportunity to potentially go a little further in the playoffs. Which teams do you see stepping up?
I think every team's happy.
Oh no!
I think every team's happy. I think every team's happy, right? You hate on greatness, but the landscape is wide open. I think right now the favorites in the OUA are the Laurier Golden Hawks, the team that went undefeated this season. They are the reigning Yates Cup champions and are looking to not only repeat in the OUA but get back to the Vanier Cup and have a chance at winning a national championship. So Laurier is looking really, really good. And then your remaining 3 teams come down to Guelph, the upset underdogs from last weekend against Western. You have Queens, one of the standards in the OUA, and then you also have the Windsor Lancers. So you're going to have Laurier versus Guelph this upcoming weekend in the OUA semifinal happening in Waterloo. The consensus is that Laurier should handle their business and kind of advance to the Yates Cup. But the interesting matchup is going to be in Windsor when you have the Windsor Lancers taking on the Queens Gales. Windsor has been a team that has been rebuilding for 5 years. 10 years ago, program was kind of at the bottom tier of the OUA, got a new head coach in 2020 in JP Sorelli, and they've really been making waves in the OUA for the last 5 years. And now they're back on a stage where they can break through to a Yates Cup for the first time since 1975. Windsor, great defense, amazing defense, leads the country in sacks with 35, leads the country in interceptions with 13 interceptions. Their issue is on the offensive side. All right, they only score around 23 points per game, which is 17th in the country. So kind of on the lower end of the middle echelon. So for them, it's if they can show up on Saturday defensively, and it's if they can put some points on the board. So all eyes are on the Windsor Lancers to see if they can make some history this upcoming weekend.
Okay. I'm excited to see how far Guelph can go. If they've already taken down the Mustangs, then maybe they have a chance against the Golden Hawks, but we'll see. All right, let's switch gears here for a second. Let's talk women's basketball. There's been a lot of transfers. Anything that stands out to you that could spice up the pot?
There's a lot of things in the OUA that I think are going to spice up the pot this year. In my opinion, I think OUA women's basketball is probably the most must-watch sport out of all the sports in youth sports, and it's because of the people that are coming to the conference.
I might be biased, but I would have to agree with that.
I know you're gonna agree with that. I know you're gonna agree with that. But so many new faces. Let's start with Kiara Letlow. Kiara Letlow, Toronto native. She spent her 4 years previously at Cape Breton out in the East Coast. She averaged 20 and 15 last season. She's also the AUS's all-time leading rebounder. She's a 3-time All-Canadian. And instead of doing her 5th year at Cape Breton, she came back to the OUA and went to Queens. Queens has been a pretty top-tier team for the last 10 years. So for them to add Kiara Letlow to the mix automatically makes them a contender. So Kiara Letlow at Queens, number 1, must watch. Next, we're going to look at Guelph. All right. Guelph landed a pretty big transfer this year in Christina Mara. I'll tell you one thing interesting about Christina Mara. She spent 4 years at Wake Forest as a starter.
Oh, wow.
That's all I need to say. That's all I need to say.
Okay.
That's all I need to say. 4 years at Wake Forest as a starter, and she also played pro previously in Italy for 3 seasons as well. So,
wow.
Yeah, I know.
She's coming with a ton of experience.
Exactly. So it's a 1-year thing, similarly to Kiara Letlow. But for Guelph, that's a huge transfer at the 5 position as well. So that puts them in the mix as well to be an OUA contender for a championship. Let's look at TMU. What you know about TMU?
No 1-2 thing.
You know 1-2 thing. Okay. Carly Clark, as you know, is an amazing coach, and she's also an amazing recruiter. And she worked her magic again this past summer, and she brought in Marion Combe from Calgary, who is a two-time Canada West All-Star, average 17, 3 and 2 last season with the Calgary Dinos. She is now over at TMU, and she is their new ball dominant guard, replacing Kaylee Hall, who was their previous ball dominant guard who graduated last season. So you're replacing an OUA All-Star with an Canada West All-Star, but you hope also becomes an OUA All-Star, right? There's a ton of talent across the OUA, and I think the transfers that have been brought to the conference, it just makes the landscape very must-watch.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us, and keep up the great work with Persevere.
Thank you so much, Savanna. Appreciate it.
We got 2 championships on tap for this weekend. First up, women's rugby championships, which are currently underway. There are 4 teams left after Wednesday's quarterfinal games. Their semifinals are scheduled for Friday, October 31st at 4 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. The final day of competition will kick off Sunday, November 2nd, with a bronze medal game set for 1:30 p.m. and the championship going down at 4 p.m. To give us an inside look on the competition going down in BC, we got Flo Simons, a national team player, cheering on her former teammates.
This weekend, I'll be heading to the U Sports Nationals. It'll be hosted by UBC this year, which is really exciting. And I'll be kind of taking on a different role this year. I won't be playing, but I'll be in the stands there supporting. I think my time there was very, super valuable for me. I learned a lot about balance and the power of sport, and how it's just such an important pathway for all the Canadian athletes who kind of want to compete at that high level. I know you get a lot of access to this high performance environment where you get coaching, you get your strength and conditioning. And for me, that was really valuable. And for me, it's really important to see all these kind of younger girls who are stepping up from high school be able to experience that same thing. So I really just want to show my support and my gratitude for my time there.
Field hockey U Sports Championships are also kicking off this week on October 30th through to November 2nd at the University of PEI in Charlottetown. 4 teams are chasing gold this week. The Victoria Vikes, who secured their 7th consecutive Can West title to qualify. UPEI, who just won its 4th straight AUFHL title. A newer face to the national stage are the Dalhousie Tigers, who qualified for the championships for the first time in 10 years this year, and York, who is arriving fresh off their OUA championship win. Joining me now is Cape Breton's women's soccer player, Audrey Roy. Welcome to the show, Audrey. Congratulations on winning the AUS title. And on top of that, you also bossed up on them and got MVP. That gotta feel pretty nice.
Yeah, it was. Thank you. It was pretty nice. Definitely a big win for us.
What was going right for you guys in the AUS tournament to get you to this point?
I think scoring for once. Through the season, that was one thing that was hard for us. Maybe we were dominating teams, but scoring was hard. And I feel like at AUS, just everything got together, and the scoring, we were playing as a team, and everything went well.
You talk about scoring, but in order to score, you got to have some pretty big assists, and you had some significant assists, especially in the quarters and the semis, that really got your teams those crucial wins to kind of have the outcome that you guys did. What assist do you recall felt the best?
The one against Saint FX was pretty good when I reached with my foot. And I would say, because that one put us on the board, because it was a tight game in quarterfinal against Saint FX.
Cape Breton's men's program also qualified for nationals. How special is that? What are the people saying on campus? What's the energy around the school?
Everyone is telling you, good job, congrats, excited for nationals. Obviously, both teams are going, so that's very good. The teachers, the janitors, the workers, everyone's telling you good luck. So it's pretty special. That's one thing I like about Cape Breton. It's a really small town. Everyone knows each other, and it's really good community, family. So excited for that, and hopefully we can represent them well.
The same thing happened to me when I was at TMU, where both the women's basketball program, which I was in, also qualified the same time the men's basketball program qualified to nationals. And I just remember thinking how special it was to make history there. fast forward, let's manifest this good energy. When you win nationals, how
Exactly,
will your
I like
team
that.
exactly? How will your team celebrate?
I think we'll celebrate by like just being proud of each other, and like I think every as we go, like I feel we're kind of doing for our seniors too, because those are like any game can be their last game. So I think we'll celebrate by just being hyped up,
I love
like
that. I love that.
taking the plane and going back home and bringing the national title home.
The only thing I ask, Audrey, is that I'm invited to the function, please.
You're definitely invited to the function.
Next week on the U, we'll be deep in the conference semifinals of football. A national winner will also be crowned for both rugby as well as field hockey, and we'll be gearing up for the men's and the women's soccer championships as well. All that and more. I'm Savanna Hamilton. Be great.